All right, now I'm going to do something that I probably shouldn't do, but I'm going to do anyway. I'm going to share some information with you guys that could make you a lot of money. And I mean a lot of money. So if you are a gambler, I want you to turn this video off because this is not for you. This is for someone that wants to be a sports investor. And I'll tell you what that is. That is someone that wants to invest money into a market that no one else knows about, but you know about. It's a secret market. It's a sports market. And you can use it and leverage your money to grow your wealth in a way that all these traditional guys do, outside your Warren Buffetts, your guys like that. See, my name is John Tedora, and I am the sports trader. And I don't just love sports. I live sports, and I make a living from sports. I trade sports the same way you trade stocks. Now, let me show you something here. For those of you that don't know what I do, it's basically, here's the principles of it. Let me just break it down for you. I use back-tested historical data, and I create systems inside of each sports market. Now, I only do baseball, football, and basketball, but because there's nothing going on right now, I created a system for the NFL draft that in one night made me 78% profit. Now, for a gambler, that's why I said if you're a gambler, turn this off. For a gambler, that's not enough money. For a gambler wants to put their money in, and they want to make 7 times their money, 8 times their money. They're in it to win it every time. And I'm in it to make some money every time. So I made 78% in one night on the NFL draft. The other night for the UFC, I created a model that I'm going to share with you, and I'm going to share with you that made me 99% on my money. So in one evening, I almost doubled my money. Now, what I'm going to show you is simply a model, and I'm going to tell you in advance, if you live in a state or in a country where it is illegal to access these markets, I am in no way endorsing that you do so. As a matter of fact, I'm telling you right now that I don't endorse you doing so. I endorse you following the law of the land wherever you live down to the letter, okay? I'm also going to tell you that what I'm going to show you right now is just a model. That's all it is. It's just a model. I may have used it, and these may be the actual numbers that I used, or they may not be. You are just going to look at them, and if you're listening to the podcast, you're just going to hear about them, and at the end, I'm going to show you a way where you could make yourself maybe a lot of money, okay? All right, now we understand each other. There's a trend that's been going on. I won't show you this yet. As a matter of fact, let's go back here. Let's talk about something really quickly. Let's talk about if you were running. And I know you're thinking to yourself, Joe, just get to the point. But this makes a lot of sense when you tie it together. Imagine you're running really, really fast, and I was chasing you. That would make you tired, right? I mean, of course, I'm chasing you. It's going to make you tired that I'm chasing you, and you're running. Now imagine that you're doing it, and there's 400 people around us cheering your name, yelling and cheering for you to stay away from me. Probably make you run even faster, wouldn't it? So it'd probably make you even more tired and wear you down even faster. Well, this is what's going to happen. This is what needs to be calculated into what sports will be today. These athletes will either need that crowd to keep themselves, at that level, or that crowd not being there will allow them to focus a little bit better and not get too amped up and let the adrenaline burn them out. And I don't think it is any more important than any sport than it is in the fight game. It's me against you. We're inside the cage. I'm focused on you. You're focused on me. Of course, I don't hear anything else. Nothing else is going on, but the roar of the crowd is always going to make a human being react a certain way. So, using that principle, and that's how everything that I do starts. It all starts with some principle. Using that principle, I paid attention to the very first UFC that came out with no crowd, which I believe was March 15th. So they came out, there was no crowd. I realized that if you look at the results of that, and all of those fights, a lot of them were decisions. If you look at what there's an over-under in sports. The over-under for each one of those fights was a round and a half, 2 rounds, 2.5 rounds. They were almost all over. So I thought to myself, wow, I wonder if that is a byproduct of no crowd. These guys have a lot more focus on what they're doing. They're not making the mistakes. The crowd's egging them on. They don't reach in and get knocked out because they were like, oh, the crowd got me excited. They're not overextending themselves because the adrenaline, any more adrenaline than they would in a one-on-one fight. The crowd doesn't amplify that adrenaline. So if you look at what we did here, maybe what we did, this is speculative. Again, this is a model for entertainment purposes only. But look at the UFC. This is what just happened this last week. Now, to me, this is still only a trend. It's not a pattern yet. So I wouldn't go balls out into this. But this is something to continue to look at as it gets more deeper into the way they're doing these fights. If they're going to stay with no crowd, this is an interesting way to watch this and try to develop systems that work with this until the books figure it out and maybe take the over-unders out. But for now, you can look at it. In the first, these are divided up into two different groups. For those of you that are watching on the YouTube channel, not listening on the podcast, they're divided up into two different groups on the screen because the top group is the preliminary fights, and the bottom group was actually what was considered to be the pay-per-view. Now, by the way, this pay-per-view sold 2.5 times so far, the numbers that are out. 2.5 times more than any pay-per-views ever sold, which is amazing because they make about $11 million from the gate, and I was thinking, geez, oh man, how are they going to make that money back up on these pay-per-views? Well, they made it up because everybody bought the darn thing. People were starving for sports and something to do. And I don't think people got together to watch the fights like they would normally do. So as opposed to you coming to my house and let's all split the $80 it would cost, I had to pay $80 for myself. So anyway, let's go back to this and let's look at what we're seeing here. What we are seeing here is we're seeing a trend where in the first grouping, 5 out of 6 fights actually went to decisions. They were all over. The other fight was a TKO in the third round. So that one went all the way to the third round as well. Very close to being a decision. But one of these, you could see I didn't play one of them because the odds were just crazy. It was minus 527 it was just crazy. I wasn't even going to get involved with that. But you can go all the way down, you can look at all this, and you can study it, take a screenshot and see what I did here. In the first section, those are all winners. In the second section, well, there's one loser, but 5 out of 6 are winners. In the second section, we were 2 for 2. 2 wins, 2 losses. But if you look at the total investment, let's just imagine that the total investment was $10,000. That's just an imaginary number. And the return was $19,945. Now that's the return with the original investment included. So really the return, if you want to look at the return, just what you gained $9,945. You gained 99% on your money is what just happened. So if you would have put $100 in there, you would have won $99.45. So you put $10,000 in there, you would have won $9,940. Wait, that's wrong. I'm sorry. Yeah, 9,000. If you put 10,000 per bet, I'm sorry. If you put 10,000 per bet, you would have won $99,450. Sorry, I got lost there for a second. I don't know what the hell was going on. Anyway, so this is something that you can use going forward with the UFC. Now, do it with some care. You don't put $1,000 play on every one of these. That's something that a professional who has a big bankroll, who knows what he's doing, who understands the risks, things like that, would think about doing. This is just for entertainment purposes only. So I'm just showing you something here that is just strictly for you to look at, analyze, come up with your own ideas. This is how sports trading works. And that's what's really important to understand here. This is exactly how sports trading works to a certain degree. Now, I would not create this as a system, to be honest with you. For me, there needs to be more back-tested historical data to go with it that would go back 2, 3, 4 years. What we have found here, we have caught a trend. This trend may be able to pay off if you're willing to take the risk. I try to catch patterns in what I do. So if you're interested in learning more about that, I invite you to go to our website, which I talked about earlier in the show, but I'll mention again real quick. It's sportstradingsystems.com. You can go there, you can sign up for our newsletter, and I will send you free content all the time, twice a week right now. I send out free content teaching you more and more about sports trading because listen, I'll be honest with you. I'll tell you a true story. I sold my businesses 2.5 years ago. I owned a few businesses. I sold everything. For the last 2.5 years, I have made a living from sports trading. And that is the God's honest truth. I have made a living from sports trading. Right now, all of my income comes from doing this. And I live a pretty fantastic life. I have a place in Thailand. I have a place in the States. I fly back and forth. I'm going to be flying to Miami in a couple weeks, even though this crazy pandemic stuff's going on. And this is a life that you can have as well if you can learn how to do this. Now, I did write a book, and of course, I'm going to try to sell the book and tell you that the book's amazing and stuff like that. It's such a small investment in the book. It's worth it to go check it out if you want to. It's also on the same website, which is sportstradingsystem.com. By the way, all this information is in the link in the description down below, so you can go check it out if you'd like to. If you're watching on YouTube, there's a description down below. If you're listening to the podcast, you can go to YouTube, or you can just go right to the website, sportstradingsystems.com. My book's $8. It'll teach you all about sports trading and the benefits of it. And, you know, it's worth an $8 investment. You're probably sitting at home doing nothing right now, so you might as well learn something along the way. All right, so that's our lesson today, how to make millions of dollars investing in the UFC. There it is. Before we end the show, I do have one last segment that we do. And again, I've told you about the website and I've told you about the newsletter I send out. In the newsletter, I give people an opportunity to actually write in and ask me questions. And I always like to answer a question or two during the show. And that is exactly how I'm going to finish the show today. So the question today comes from Daryl L. And it's Dear Sports Trader, can you please explain the difference between gambling and sports investing? And that'll be an easy question to answer. Let me repeat the question one more time. And by the way, when I'm done with this, I'm going to tell you a way you can make even more money off the UFC. So just stick around. If you didn't see the UFC segment and you're watching this on YouTube and we cut this up in segments, go back and watch the UFC segment, and then I'm going to tell you how you can make more money off UFC. So the difference between gambling and sports investing is this. And it's just a mentality. And you know what? Let's not even talk about sports. Let's talk about the stock market, because it's the same darn thing. It's the same darn thing. You can wake up tomorrow and look at your phone and say to yourself, wow, I have an iPhone. I love iPhones. I'm so into Apple. I love Apple so much. I think I'm going to wake up tomorrow and buy some Apple stock. I bet that a lot of people love Apple just like I do. So people are going to wake up tomorrow and probably buy Apple just like I am. It's going to drive the stock up, and that's how I'm going to make money. Well, that is gambling. That is basically what gambling is. That's waking up and saying, you know what? LeBron's going to score 40 tomorrow. I'm betting on the Lakers. I got a LeBron jersey in the closet. I'm going to wear it and go to the sports bar. Watch the game. LeBron. Money on LeBron. That guy never loses. That's gambling, kids. That's gambling. And that same mentality, that same guy that wants to invest in Apple tomorrow, or wants to bet on LeBron, thinks that the money he's going to put in is going to make him double or triple his money in 10 minutes. And then he can brag to all of his friends about how he made a great idea. He had this great idea. I bought Apple stock. I bought Facebook stock. I invested in LeBron James. I'm a genius. Raw, look at me. That's gambling. Investing in anything, whether it's sports or the stock market or what have you, a chicken restaurant on the side of the street, whatever you're investing in should be based upon back-tested, historical, data-driven decisions. You can't just look at something and say, that's a good investment unless you understand the investment inside and out, all the numbers, all the way back. If somebody comes to you tomorrow with a business idea and says, I have this great business idea, it's going to change the world, the very first thing you should say to them is, do you have a business plan? Do you have a business plan? What are your systems? Do you have systems in place? Do you have systems drawn out? How will you run this business? Otherwise, it's just an idea. It's just a gamble. So what I do with sports trading is I create systems that are based off these patterns that I find inside the matrix. For baseball, I have 6 different systems. It diversifies my portfolio. It's just like a portfolio that I used to have whenever I was investing in traditional markets. Only now with what I do, I don't have to worry about the stock market crashing. What's going to happen with the Fed, changing the rates? What's going to happen with this new trade war that's going to happen with China? What's going to happen with the increasing unemployment rate? None of that makes a difference to me, because as soon as sports comes back on, as soon as this back on, the Mets and the Dodgers are going to play each other. It's not going to be affected. So never at one time, at any time would I invest $1 into sports trading and realize that, oh my God, this whole game got changed because Trump changed the business taxes. Doesn't make a difference to me. Doesn't matter at all. Well, listen, that is the Sports Trader Show. If you would like to send me an email, you can do that. Ask me a question. Ask me anything. I answer pretty much everything. This show will be coming out 3 days a week. If you're watching on YouTube, thanks for watching. This is pretty long. If you're listening, thanks for listening. Hopefully I was part of your drive somewhere, or maybe you were sitting around working out at the gym listening to us. Hopefully you guys learned something from the show. Hopefully I was able to bring some value into your life, and you'll continue to follow along. If you did like the show, I do invite you to follow. You could put a like, you could subscribe, things like that. Whatever platform you're on, whatever it takes for me to become part of your life on a daily basis. Let's make that happen. Let's be friends. I'm lonely during this pandemic. All right, guys. I'm the Sports Trader, and I am out.